Isn't that right?
Because I have no idea what we're talking about.
Perfect. So, welcome to Beyond Self-Made Podcast. I'm Michael Greenwald, and today I have Jesse Prescott with me. He has no idea what we're going to talk about, so it's going to be fun.
A little bit of anxiety, but not too bad. I like to have a plan, you know?
Yeah, I like both. A little bit of a plan, but then also like just kind of seeing where the conversation goes. I generally have a flow that I like, but
Totally.
I have had one person recently say they wanted a script of exact things I was going to ask them.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm just not going to interview you because
Yeah.
it's not authentic.
Well, and the first iteration of my podcast, I felt as though I had to do that, but then the conversation wasn't organic.
Yeah.
And then it just felt really robotic. And so after that, I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to go where it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the second iteration that I have with your brother, I have stuff that I want to talk to him about. And then it just
You guys go down.
spirals. Yeah, we're just
You guys go down some rabbit holes.
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's always fun with that guy.
I'll tell you what, I know I want to get to the interview, but I text you and Dave probably a month ago, and I was like, Joe Rogan, nope. Sean Ryan, nope, not gonna listen to that one. They all have new episodes out, and I'm like, I want to listen to Robust Human.
Yeah, man. It's a wild ride, dude. It's like, you know how women are always confused about what men talk about? You know, they're just like, how did you guys not talk about anything? And I'm like, well, listen to my podcast, because that's how we do it. 'Cause, like, one of my really good friends that I train with, his name's Isaac, and when I met him at Todd Miller's CrossFit gym,
Okay.
and we talked for like 2 hours, and then my wife's like, who's that guy? That's Isaac. Where does he work? I have no idea. Is he married? I don't know that either. Does he have kids? I don't know. She's like, what'd you guys talk about for 2 hours? And it's like, I don't even really remember. Yeah. So that's my podcast in a nutshell. If anybody's interested.
Well, that's a good segue into, so Jesse Prescott is a podcaster, Robust Human podcast, right?
Yep.
I'm saying it right. You operate a studio out of the same name, Robust Human?
Yeah, the Robust Human Project is my gym and also my massage studio where I do manual therapy on people. And so everything that I do is quite unique compared to the rest of the industry as it pertains to both of those things.
Yeah, I want to dig into that. But first, one of the big reasons I wanted to interview you was because we've known each other for what, probably 20-ish years, 18, 20 years.
Yeah.
Cause I think in 07 was my first fight, and I didn't know you before that. I think it was right after my first fight.
Right.
And then we started training together.
We started training together shortly before your second one, I believe.
Yeah.
And we were still kind of intermittent, I think, because you had Peak Team and I was just training with Mario. And then we slowly kind of merged.
Yeah.
I think after your second fight.
Yeah, that's when we really picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was intermittent. It was more, I don't know if you were boxing yet.
I wasn't yet. I went to Impact because of you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had gone to Marshall Way for jiu-jitsu, and then that's where we met you because we were trying to get better at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I think. Yeah. So I just really, I wanted to have you because my perspective of like you walking in the door, I don't know if it matches up with your perspective of who you were and then who you've become over the last, I don't know, 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
It's just been a trajectory that I'm like, heck yeah, this guy has no quit in him.
Well, that's interesting. And kind of reliving this through therapy right now, because I got married and then shortly divorced. And so, and then was dealing with that divorce through like alcohol, basically. And so for like a year, I was just drinking heavily and was astonishingly unhealthy. Like I was, got up to like 295 pounds, just huge. And I hit this breaking point where like I was just really fragile and raw at the time. And I made plans to like hang out with a friend, and he just blew me off. And then that just sent me. And I just drank like a whole bottle of rum and smoked a bunch of cigarettes. And that was the first time I'd ever blacked out from drinking.
Hmm.
And I just woke up and my heart was racing and I could barely breathe. And I was like, this has got to stop. And then the literally the next day, I was like, I'm going to get in shape. And so the only way I could think to do that was by like riding my bike to work. And at that point, all I had was the BMX bike that I rode when I was in my teens. And so I jumped on that thing and rode across town in the springtime. And it was so windy. And it was so windy that the wind stopped me like 5 times. And I was like, buddy, this is wild right now. Like, what are we doing? But I chugged it out and then, um, found out about Mario through my mom, who, Mario was her sergeant at the detention
Okay.
or at the jail, rather. And so got a hold of him and just showed up and just started. And then after that, I quit drinking alcohol, quit smoking cigarettes at the same time, just like really focused on cleaning up my diet, rode that stupid little kid's bike all over the place, and just like this was really coming out of that fog of, for lack of a better term, temporary alcoholism, and was just really trying to find out who I was and what I was doing. And, at that point in my life, I was terrified of conflict because I got bullied my whole life. And, just some stupid reason in my brain, I was just like, the thing that I need to do is cage fighting. I have no idea why, but we're just going to let it rip. I think, my best friend ever, his name's Aaron Wayne. So he went to prison for attempt to sell marijuana 2 years. And so he went in like this happy little raver kid and came out just this savage of a human being.
Hmm.
And so he completely turned his life around after that, was in where was he at? North Carolina, training with Bill Superfoot Wallace.
Okay.
And, was just becoming a monster. And I was like, man, that seems like the way to go. Like, if the world sucks, you might as well be a monster. You know what I mean? And so he was really kind of the inspiration. And then that night where I blacked out was really just kind of the kick in the pants to like get me going down that road.
Okay. So you had like a seed planted based off of his success there.
Yeah,
And you said, I got to do something.
I got to do something. And that was it. And I just was like, well, I'll just dive into the thing that scares me the most and just let it rip.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. So, because there's more to unpack there, because you were like, I don't want to say, is it safe to say that you were just kind of lost in general? Because like job, personal life, your physical health, like everything wasn't really good at that time, right?
No, nothing. Yeah. I was working at a smoke shop selling crack pipes to crackheads. Like, just had no idea what I was doing. And
Yeah.
then, was, man, that was like right around the 2008 financial crisis. So like I finally just was like, I lost that job and then was desperately searching for another one, and then finally got a job at like Roma Pizza. And then, that's right around when I met you guys. And well, I worked at Fratelli first and then Roma Pizza. So I was just working in pizza, and I had this epiphany the other day where that divorce screwed me up so bad it basically halted any progress in my life by like 5 years. So the way I look at my life right now is I'm basically 5 years behind and I have to like make up ground.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I'm looking at because I was just barely living. You know what I mean? Just making pizza, drinking, and that's about it,
Yeah. And then just a moment.
Well,
Well,
that's all it takes, man.
with the decision making
Yeah.
anyway, right? Like
Yeah.
you said, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we met you when you were actively trying to quit smoking.
It
I
was
vaguely
it
remember
was all
something
like
like that.
shortly after that. Because the one thing that will really help you quit smoking is trying to do rigorous physical exercise and just realizing, oh my God, I'm so compromised right now. There's no way. There's no
Mm,
way I can keep smoking and do this. Like you hear about those anomalies like in the military or whatever, they can just like smoke a pack a day and still run 6-minute miles or whatever. But,
yeah.
I'm not that guy. I've never been like a physical anomaly. I've always had to like work to get to where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. So you, we met you, you started training, and then I want to figure out your arc because, like my memory is so intermittent.
Yeah.
I remember like training, and then I remember I fought and you fought and Dave fought and we had peak team and
Yeah.
and then for whatever I'll just say life, we all kind of started going in different directions. But then um let's dig into that a little bit. Your decision to fight, like how long had you been training when
So
we took that fight?
I've been training for about 3 years. And, so I helped David train for his fight for like 5 months.
Yeah.
Just like we were together every single day. We were inseparable. It was like he was so dialed. It was like playing a video game. We had like names for combinations. I would just shout Steven and he would just, you know, throw a jab, straight, right hook, leg kick. Like just, it was wild. His leg kicks, he could kick down
Oh,
a
yeah.
building, man. Like I remember I was holding one of those crash pads in front of me or on the side of my leg rather, and he like started buckling my knee. So then I held it in front of my knee and he bruised my knee through an 8-inch pad. And I was like, this is crazy. So I just started pulling heavy bags down and then having him kick the heavy bag on it was wild. And but like just deadly leg kicks. And then, he had his fight and shortly thereafter, I think it was his fight was in October. And then Efren Escudero came up to train with us
Yeah.
in December, and he was fighting a southpaw, and me and Anthony were the only southpaws in the gym, so I had to jump in there, and I was scared out of my jumping in with a pro cage fighter,
Yeah.
but then I handled it, like I handled it for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then he caught me with a liver shot, and I was like, "Whew, buddy," but then that was the confidence booster that I needed to just jump in on a cage fight.
Yeah.
And then we just booked it. And then, I remember the very first training session we had at any time you and your brother were there, and I was trying to sprint on the treadmill and I was like freaking out and losing it and couldn't do it. And then 2 months later, I was an assassin,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just like
It was a quick change.
hammered it. And then like my cage fight was wild. Because it was in the craziest place ever in Lordsburg, New Mexico.
Yep.
Just wild place. Like like anybody in America driving past that place is like, yeah, I'll get gas at the next place. You know what I mean? And, then, but I remember one week out, they called me because we were supposed to fight at 190 at a catch weight.
Yeah.
And then they called me and they're like, can you make 200 pounds? And I was talking to you about it. And then you're like, well, let's step on the scale and see where you're at. And I was 191. I was like, yeah, I can make 200 pounds. But then once we got to the venue, we found out that that dude cut to 205.
Yeah.
And I weighed 190 with all my clothes on.
Right.
And that dude was huge.
He was a big boy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to just close that door. Somebody decided to insert a chainsaw
Yeah.
at the same time. He didn't read the sign out front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Said we're.
Yeah. We had the on air sign and they just didn't care. But yeah, I want to, like, I don't think people understand what a cage fight is, especially like your first one. Like they only see like these UFC fighters doing exceptionally well, win or lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like when you are like walking into like literally the scariest thing in your life, like it's wild, dude. And so like at that point, like you said, I was dialed in and I knew I hit hard and the ref says go. And I hit that dude with 2 solid shots right to his face. And he just barely seemed to notice. And I was like, okay, what do we do now? And then after that, it was just like just trying to figure it out. And it was all just instinct at that point. And, you know, I remember complete auditory exclusion.
Yeah.
Like just looking at you and David, and you guys were like telling me stuff, and I just couldn't hear anything. And I was just nodding at you, and then you gave me water, and I drank it, and then I gave it back, and then I turned around, and it was just fighting this dude again. It was crazy. Like the first thing I heard was after I lost that fight, and that ring announcer came in. He's like, "Bet you're not coming back," and I'd be like, "Buddy, I will take your lunch money right now in front of all these people."
Right.
I just got destroyed by this dude and I can still kick your ass. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about, asshole? And that was like the first thing that I heard.
Wow. So just blacked out all the way through.
All the way through, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because like I've never been pro, but we've been around pros.
Yeah.
And they're so polished and they're so dialed, like their training systems, their fight camp preparation, and their weight, like who they're fighting, when they're fighting. It's all very dialed in. And with the amateurs, you know, like by the second one, I had a much better understanding. But the first one, my first fight, we agreed to, it was 200, no, 205. It was 205. And I think I told you when you fought to just go ahead and like take the fight because they're not going to really switch opponents for you.
No, it's a Wild West, man.
It is. It's just like Dave's fight. They went through like 4 different opponent changes
On
the day of the fight.
Yeah. Like they changed it because we were preparing for 5 months for a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then they changed it to a wrestler. And so I was still struggling to drive down there. Driving down to Phoenix on the night of David's cage fight was the most infuriating thing that I could possibly imagine. Road construction left and right. Like, and I remember getting like you calling me with updates. Well, he's fighting a wrestler now. And I'm like, cool, same game plan, whatever. And then they changed it like right when I got into Phoenix again. And I was just like, whatever, it's the same thing. And then right when I got to the venue, you come running out and you're like, he's fighting a southpaw kickboxer now. And I'm like, cool, we're wildly unprepared for that. Like, what are we talking about? That's so crazy. And like, you know, he went out there, fought his ass off, but that's another thing. Like the amount of emotion that you put into that one thing. And the load that you put on yourself to perform for everybody around you that has helped you get there is insane. So when you go out there and lose, it's crazy. The emotional roller coaster that you go through.
Agreed.
You know, dude, because that after I lost my cage fight, that was the first time I've cried in my adult life.
Hmm.
I was like,
But it makes sense. Like
totally.
I'm a crier
Yeah.
anyway, but that emotional toll is something that is so worth talking more about. Like I remember laying in bed at bedtime and then going, I'm going to be in a fight in 19 days or
Yeah.
whatever the day count was, right?
Right.
Even 3 months out, be laying there and going, oh man, I'm going to be in a fight. It's not just a fight. It's not somebody on the street or walking to the door right here and then okay, you just fight. You know you're going to fight and you're going to be in front of so many people that are watching you. A lot of them care about you, helped you get there. And then half of them are begging the other guy to rip your head off, right? Like there's
Yeah.
just so many thoughts that go through the head
Totally.
in those quiet moments where like I trained hard, I should be able to sleep tonight. And yet laying there going, oh crap, I'm gonna do something really hard, really outside the box
Totally.
in whatever it is,
Yeah.
15 days, 12 days, tomorrow.
Yeah. And it's so odd how that makes everything else in your life so much more tolerable. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
had a string of heart problems with atrial fibrillation over the last couple of years, and did two cardioversions where they shock you back into normal rhythm, and then did one ablation surgery where they go in through your groin and burn the nerves that are causing your heart to beat irregularly,
Hmm.
and you know just wasn't even nervous for any of that. You know what I mean? Like, just whatever, just send it. Like, who cares? You know what I
Done
mean?
harder
Yeah,
things.
like I remember um trying to get a job at like when I was working, you remember when I worked at that terrible gas station?
Yeah.
And I had three job interviews with Gore, and one of them was like a panel interview, and I was so nervous. But then I was like, oh, I don't have to put my mouthpiece in for this, so who cares? Like, just all this stuff, like when you do something so scary and so exceptionally difficult, like the rest of your life is just way easier. It's wild.
I agree. And I love that you share that. Agnell, who his episode came out just a couple days ago,
Yeah.
and he was saying the same kind of things. Like he was in such a hard place in life. And then when he did something really hard, he recognized win or lose, right? Like that was a moment that now you can go, okay, that job interview is now easy, or a heart ablation is now easier than it would have been. And I think so many of us are just soft or not willing to try something like that. And I'm not saying everybody should get in a cage, but
No, well, I mean, so I was talking to one of my athletes who's an elite Ironman athlete, and what was weird to her and what I've been thinking about a lot too is like these average everyday people, they don't train for 5Ks. They don't train for 10Ks. They don't train for sprint triathlons. They don't train for, the Olympic distance triathlons. They train for marathons and they train for Ironmans. And it's like, I think that when people hit this point where they want to be a better person, the only way that they can figure out how to do that is by doing something that they perceive to be exceptionally difficult.
hmm,
And that's like, and I don't think, like, especially with the Iron Man stuff, like people don't understand. Like I had a client the other day, his girlfriend's in that spot. And she's like, I'm going to do an Ironman. And he's like, okay. And she's like, well, what do I need to do? And he's like, you need to train a lot. And she's like, what do you mean? Like the most elite Ironman athletes in the world are finishing in 8 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah. So you're going to finish in between 16 and 20. You know what I mean? Like,
And that's with training.
that's with training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like these people train all day. It's crazy.
you almost have to, because I mean,
Yeah.
it's a full marathon.
It's an 8-mile bike ride.
Yeah, and then a 2.2 mile swim or something.
Yeah. It's absurd.
Any one of those would crush me.
Any one of those. Like, yeah. Because I ran a half marathon, and the second I finished, I was like, okay, double this? I don't know. That seems like a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy. But I think that that's what people do to change their life, I think. And so there's some people that are happy in the rut, and there's other people that are like, I got to do something. You know what I mean? So then they do these exceptionally difficult things. And then, the marathon turns into a 50K, and then the 50K turns into an ultra.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it just, because then once you realize how much it mutes the stress in your life, then you crave that difficulty. And so that's been a thing that I've been preaching on for a long time, is that I think people need purposeful struggle. And I think if the people that don't have it consciously create it subconsciously. And so that's when, they start fights with their spouses, or they start yelling at baristas for screwing up their coffee, or, all these other things, is they starting to create this struggle that they need to have. I think humans need to have that, because then that gives them purpose, and people with purpose are unstoppable, man. You know what I mean?
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's it's just a profound thing to say. And I don't know how to like spread the message more than getting people like you on the podcast, but there's so many people that I come across, and they're like, well, I don't have time to go for a run, or I don't have time to do this. And I'm like, you can walk a mile in the 30 minutes that you set aside from doom scrolling on social media.
No,
you can always find a way to do something hard.
You have time.
Yeah.
You're just not.
You're
not prioritizing it. And so that's the thing. Like, as I've, like, the hardest part of my job is I have to cater to other people's schedules. So if somebody's coming in at 7 and I have to run 10 miles that day, I'm waking up at 4:30 and I'm running until 5:30, because I'm really slow. So till 6:30, and then I just immediately go to work. You know what I mean? And that's like,
but you're prioritizing it.
right.
You're saying, I'm going to do
Because you have
this.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I'm at this part right now where I'm still like recovering from that heart surgery. And I was out of the loop for 5 months. And so right now I'm trying to get back into the training space.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I have 2 puppies, which is the worst idea ever.
Keep you up all night.
Oh my God. And so it's really, really easy to slip back in. You know what I mean? And it takes an exceptional effort to get back out of it again. And so that's where I'm at right now, is just, the other day, I've been talking about this a lot. The other day, I increased my mileage to like 2.5 miles. And it was one of those runs where I was like, this is when people are just like, screw it. It was right here.
It's worth just being fat and lazy.
Totally. I'll just be fat. So much better. But I've also done this enough to know that if I just stick it out for another couple weeks, then it'll be fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it'll be worth it. And so that's just where I'm at right now.
Well, that's the other piece. I love that you mentioned that, because there's, I've been following a number of people and listening to their podcast or seeing their trajectories, and a lot of these people are entrepreneurs who just didn't quit, or maybe they failed in their first company, but now they know how to get back to where they were and not make that same mistake again. And then, some of these guys like Grant Cardone, he's a billionaire now. And
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing that you just talked about, where it's like, I've been here before. I know that, okay, I had a setback from my heart, but because I did it the hardest way the first time, now I know how to get back to it. And I think that's why they find repeated success, is because they continuously push themselves in tough scenarios, like,
It's just like, it's insane how much jujitsu can be like a metaphor for life, man. Cause like, I've been, I took like a 10-year hiatus and then got back into it in 2021 with the goal of like getting a black belt. And so jujitsu is just like a business. You just show up every
mhm.
day, whether you want to or not, whether you feel like it or not, and you'll be a black belt. Takes 10 years. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like I've been doing this business for 10 years and I finally have my own studio that is mine. I can design it the way I want. I can make it look the way I want it. I can make changes the way I want it. I can train whenever I want. I can massage whenever I want. I can do whatever I want. And that took me 10 years to get there.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So like there's these people that see like these anomalies of these, like the guy who invented the Oculus, like he, invented this thing. Mark Zuckerberg bought it. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those are one-offs though.
One-offs. Everybody else has been grinding forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that brings up this, I was listening to this podcast interview with this former Navy SEAL who just got his black belt. He'd been a black belt for like 6 months. And he had a guy on who'd been a black belt for 30 years. And he's like, what keeps you going to jujitsu, man? Like, what keeps you motivated? And he's like, I just now figured it out. And he's like, what are you saying to me right now? Like, to understand that, like, the black belt isn't even near the pinnacle
Oh yeah.
of what you can possibly achieve. You know what I
It's
mean?
almost like now you know how to learn.
Right.
We've taught you how to learn over the last
Ti-
12 years, 10,
Total.
12 years.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm at right now, where it's just like, people like, well, what are your goals? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to keep showing up and I'm going to keep doing the best job I can do. You know what I mean? Cause like I started the strength coaching to offset the slow times when massage therapy wasn't producing as much. So, like March is a perfect example. That's when everybody goes on spring break. Nobody's in town. Nobody needs massages. So then I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, being like, cool, guess I'll go find a job. You know what I mean? But I don't, once you work for yourself, it's incredibly difficult to work for anybody else.
Hmm.
And so makes you virtually unemployable. And so, and so then I started the strength coaching thing and then, worked really hard and went and learned from everybody. I had the financial means from an inheritance that I received to learn from the leaders of the industry in both massage therapy and strength training. And so I traveled all over America and even up into Canada learning from these people. And then I spent years learning how to implement and integrate everything. And then had one triathlete start training with me. And we started training him for the Olympics. And then his friend, who was a marathoner, started training with me. And then he actually made it to the Olympics for the marathon. And then after that, I just started getting all these elite athletes, like some of the best athletes in the world.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, cool. So it's just this one thing. And you don't know when that's going to be, but it can improve your business substantially
Oh
as
yeah.
long as you just keep going.
You just kept going. You
Yeah.
kept grinding. Let's go back. I really want to dig into like what you do, but you in my experience with you from meeting you, you've always kind of been a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. And if I remember right, you had Never Die Athletics
Yep.
when I met you.
Yep.
And tell me how you funded that, because I have a thought.
If I just I'm trying not to cuss on the podcast.
Go ahead.
I just fucking moved to a pizza place, dude. I just made it happen, man. Like so this is the frustrating thing is like if I would have started Never Die Now, it would have been so much easier
Yeah.
because I started it back then where you couldn't buy just one shirt. So like if Michael's like, I want a shirt, I have to make 30 shirts
Right.
to give Michael one shirt. I can't just make one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or it costs an exceptional amount of money. So I had to make like 30. So I just, but then the website that I had didn't like integrate sales into it. And I had no idea how to do that. And I was just too early. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just, and it was just, yeah, I just had this desire to make my own stuff and make it really cool and make everybody else, love it. And then, just started producing it. And then it just gave me like a sense of pride to look in the cage and see somebody wearing my stuff. And then, I reconnected with some of the BMX guys that I used to ride with, and they never stopped riding. So they were just exceptional by the time I got to them. And then, they really had the desire to be role models. And so they would go and they would ride, and then all these little kids would come up and start talking to them, and they'd give them like shirts and stickers. And then I started seeing stickers on people's cars that I had no idea who they were. And I'm like, rad.
That's
You know what I mean? It's just, yeah. So, yeah, if I would have started that like 10 years later, I would have been money. But it was just, I just wanted to make cool stuff.
And you did. It was so cool because I remember up until I met you and then I got all the Never Die gear, I was rocking Throwdown
Yeah.
because, I'd go to a Rage in the Cage fight and Throwdown had a booth and I thought their stuff was cool. And so I'd, try it on and be like, okay, I'm buying this shirt or whatever. And it was right before, what was that big one that took off and all the bros were wearing it? And
Tap out.
well, Tap Out was one, and then there was another one.
Oh, there was a bunch of them, man.
Yeah, but you were like right in that time frame, but I feel like you didn't have the resources to get big because your designs were cooler than anybody's.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we weren't good enough fighters to get you on the big stage.
Well, I just had no idea how to do it. You know what I mean? I just had no idea,
Yeah.
but like, and so that goes back to like the cage fighting thing. Like it's a miracle that we did it because we just had no idea what the hell we were doing. None. Like Mario was the highest ranked belt in Flagstaff at blue belt.
Yeah.
And we were just like, I guess this is how you kick stuff. I don't know. And then, we had good, like exceptional boxing trainers,
Yeah.
but like, we were just, I guess you pick up a heavy bag and run with it. I don't know.
Just
like we're just,
it.
yeah, letting it rip, dude. And now, like, especially with the knowledge that I have, I'm like, man, I could have trained some savages. You know what I mean? And and nowadays I think there's like 8 or 9 black belts in town. We have Monster Muay Thai. That guy's like, goes to Thailand for 6 months out of the year and then comes back and, trains all his fighters. He's like an actual crew, like crew Mike Hernandez.
I think there's a couple of them in town.
And so like we had no resources and still made it happen. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's crazy.
Literally driving to the parking lot in the peaks and then running up the mountain. And
yeah, like what the hell were we doing? I don't know. But
we're doing hard things every day.
Carry a log, I guess. Like we're just like, how can we make this stupider? Is basically what we were doing. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And so, but that goes along with the t-shirt thing. Like I just want to make t-shirts. And so I did. And then, I want to make fight shorts. So I found a fight short company that made Blake fight shorts. And then I put my logo on them. And then how do I make hats? And then I just started figuring it out. But then I'm like, I never got to the point where I could figure out, like, how to sell them en masse, which is what all those other companies were able to do.
Mhm.
Like, I couldn't there was no like, if I tried to go with, like, Rage in the Cage and sell alongside Throwdown, Throwdown already had that space, you know what I mean? So I'd be stepping on their toes, and they wouldn't allow that to happen. So it's like, but then I was, too young, I think, and, like I said, 5 years delayed on my, development as a person just because I was just in the darkness for that lo amount of time, and, I just didn't I was just basically working and making clothing and training, and that's all I was doing, and it was just, a good time, but I didn't have the emotional maturity to figure out how to take that to the next level.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think of a number of ideas I've had over the years that failed, and a lot of it was lack of follow through on my own part, but it was also the either the inability to learn, or at that time, especially if I wanted to learn, okay, you can do that, but it costs $3,000 to go to this class or something. And then I had other priorities of, spending my money or
Yeah,
whatever. I don't want to say I didn't have the money. I could have prioritized the money
yeah,
and done things differently to budget appropriately to see those things through. But the maturity piece does stand out. But I'd also say there's probably lessons learned now that you started a business and then went through this process, right? Like,
yeah, because I started multiple businesses. I've been starting clothing companies since I was, like, 15, you know what I mean? Because I just wanted to make cool stuff, and I've always been an artist, and I always back when I was 15, I would just, like, draw a picture and then take it to this printing shop, and then they make me a bunch of shirts. I'm like, "Wow, that's cool." You
that
know
is
what I
cool.
mean? And then I started, like, before Never Die, it was, thick skin mixed martial arts is what I called it.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't
and
remember
then
that.
yeah, had a huge falling out with a business partner, and then started Never Die shortly after that, but that's when I was really getting into, like, Photoshop and being able to, like, rip designs out that way. Um, but then, the failing thing, I think, is so important because, in this 10 years that I've been running this business, right smack dab in the middle of that was COVID. And so you're like, "How am I gonna make this work?"
Mhm.
Because basically my job's illegal because everything is face to face. You know what I mean? So then trying online stuff and that's failing, and then trying online strength training programs and then that's failing, and then trying, you know, this and that and, education, like all this stuff just fail, fail, fail. Like I've failed more in the last 6 years than I have in my whole life, but I'm just letting it rip, dude. And, so like I have this online strength training program for runners that I've been really trying to get going because that's like one of those things. Like if I want to get into that six figures and make it consistent, this is the way to do it without killing myself
Mhm.
and while still being able to spend time with my wife and all that kind of stuff. And so, it hasn't, I've sold a couple of them. It hasn't gained traction yet, but it's like one of those things like where you get the right athlete and that's all it takes. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so right now I have the right athletes. Um, but the problem is I don't want to be an influencer because I hate influencers. You know what I mean? So I hate having to like film myself all the time, and I don't have the capacity in my brain to just be like, oh, what do I want to talk about today? And set up the camera and set up the microphones and set up all that stuff. So really struggling with that. But once you, so now I have that product and it's just on my website and anybody can buy it whenever they want. I just have to get the right message out at the right time because right now I'm early. And so once you just stick with it, then eventually that'll catch fire. And then I'll be like freaking out because now I need to do the next 6 weeks of programming for these people to buy in the next 6 weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but I've been experimenting with these exceptional athletes for the last 3 years. And so I know what works and I know what doesn't. And, like the guy that qualified for the Olympics, he had to qualify with a 2:08 marathon time. And then at Boston last year, he ran 2:07. And then at Chicago last year, he ran 2:06 high. And then at Boston, this year, he ran 2:06 low and was really disappointed with his performance.
Wow.
And, if that was like 2 weeks ago, and now in 2 weeks, he's going to race Ottawa Marathon and he's planning on, trying to get 2:05 low. And I'm just like, okay, so this works. So he's proof of that. He's running sub 450 miles for 26 miles.
That's insane.
And he's able to have enough power to kick at the end and pass people. So what I'm doing works.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just need to get people going on the idea that they need strength training to run better. And that's what I'm trying to do right now, is just figure out how to get that message out there. You know what I mean? So that's like the tough part.
Yeah, that's such a hard thing. You mentioned the influencing thing. I struggle all the time. A lot of my stuff is just auto set. I'll
Yeah.
do a podcast, it's long form, and then I can put it in and it auto clips it, and then it's set on a schedule and it just releases. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that I can deal with. It's those, they say you've gotta get on, you've got to show what you're doing today or and I like it when other people do it. I want
Yeah.
nothing to do with it when I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
so difficult for me to do it. I feel almost cringy.
Well,
And then I'm like, but
then it gets weird because I've worked with a few elite runners that come to mind, and one of them came in for a massage, and it was the first time I'd met her, but I've been following her for a long time. And as I'm talking to her while I'm doing this massage, I'm like, oh, this is weird. It's weird because I know everything about you and we've never met before. You know what I mean? So like they've taken it to that level that you're talking about. And now, as somebody you've never met, some random dude, I know when your period is.
wow.
That's wild. And I just was like, this is crazy
Because she's putting all that
she's
online.
because in order to get that level of exposure, they have to talk about literally everything, everything. Like one of them, the other one that I was talking about, just moved to a new city. And then she spent like a week just being like, I'm going to find the perfect breakfast burrito, and was traveling around the city finding all the best breakfast burritos. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, nobody cares.
And yet
Like,
you're watching.
I know. Like, it's weird because I'm watching because she's an elite runner.
Yeah.
And I worked with her for 8 weeks before the 2021 Olympics. And so then now that I'm worked with you for that 6 to 8 weeks, now I'm invested in your performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I follow you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So going back to like when we first started cage fighting, we were like piecemealing together our training based off of the UFC behind the scenes shows.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? What are they doing? That's what we care about. Like, I don't give a shit if Donald Cerrone's eating a burrito. I want to know what he's doing for his conditioning. I want to know what he's doing for his strength. I want to know what his wrestling schedule is, what his striking schedule is, what his jujitsu schedule is. I want to know who he's training with and how he's training with them. I want to know, all that stuff.
Water
Like
intake,
what's
sleep.
he eating? Like, how's he optimizing sleep? How's he doing that with a family?
Mm-hmm.
How's he doing that while owning a ranch? Like, that's all stuff that matters to me. I follow you because you're an elite runner, not because you're a breakfast burrito fan. You know what I mean? And I like, nobody needs to know when your period is.
Yeah.
Like, that's super weird. You know what I mean? But that's like the level that we're at right now with this social media content.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I've been doing is just booking lectures at Run Flagstaff, and I just booked one at my gym because Run Flagstaff's really busy right now. And then I just do like an hour and a half lecture, and then use Opus Clip to, parse that out and start posting those.
I think that's a good methodology.
Yeah.
For guys like you and me, it's really difficult to do the whole I'm at a soccer game and I want to talk about this, or because like you said, what comes to mind, what's worth sharing. Sometimes there's some spark and I'm like, okay, it's a true spark, it's worth sharing. I'll put it up there. But for the most part, it's more, okay, can I get in front of a group of people, really talk to them, try to teach them, try to, you know, encourage or elevate their leadership style, their communication style, whatever it is, whatever I'm talking about. And then I'm doing that anyway. Can we record that and then just clip it up like we'll do with this?
Yeah.
So
Well, so I don't know if you listened to me and David's latest episode,
I'm about halfway through and you guys are hilarious.
but we kind of dove into it. I don't know if you got to the Grand Canyon part,
Yeah.
but like that's what we were talking about. Like that's the part about this world that drives me so crazy. And it's the internet has made people feel like they're so important when they're really not. And so the example that I used is like when you're at the Grand Canyon, just take a picture of the Grand Canyon. You don't need to take a selfie in front of the Grand Canyon. It doesn't make the Grand Canyon more grand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to, like, I know you're there. Like, stop it. Like, what do you, like, if you send me a picture of your food, like, I don't need your face in it. I really
Well,
don't. Like, I just,
the
like,
food one has always bugged me. I don't know why. Like, I want, if it looks that gorgeous, I want it while it's hot. I'm going to eat it. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Just to get the perfect angle. And
Like, we went to Atria for our 10-year wedding anniversary a few years ago, and it was the best meal I've ever had in my life. Like, me and my wife were just eating it. I was like closing my eyes so I could get the full sensory experience of it.
yeah,
Not once was I was like, oh my God, I need to take a
gotta
picture
take
of this. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I think benefit of like martial arts is it's so humbling. You know what I mean? Like you can just be on a tear, and while you're on a tear, everybody else is getting better
Mm-hmm.
and you've been slacking because you've been on a tear.
Yeah.
And then they just start wrecking you again.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now, where I'm just like, buddy, we gotta rein it back in here, man. Because I've just been getting dragged through the rocks for like the last 3 weeks, and but anytime you're thinking you're important and somebody just strangles you, my God. Because we were learning baseball chokes the other day, and my main training partner is like 6'5", 250 pounds, and it felt like he was going to pop my head off. You know what I mean? And you're just like, this dude almost popped my head off in training. I probably don't need to take a selfie at the Grand Canyon. I could just, you know what I mean? I don't know. But it's like one of those things too, like all these, you know, things that people do that are like exceptionally difficult, like the Ironmans and the ultras and they are humbling,
Mm-hmm.
like some of like I said, I work with some of the best athletes in the world, and sometimes they just can't put it together on that day. They make wrong decisions tactically, and then it humbles them, and they're like, dang, all right, we got to get back to it. You know what I mean? Because nobody can be on a tear forever. But when
Yeah.
you're an influencer and you find whatever it is that people want to see, then you can be on a tear indefinitely because people just want to see that. So then you don't get humbled and then you get full of yourself. And then that's when it gets ridiculous where you're just like, man, you guys, I've done that multiple times where I start following somebody and I was like, I can't do this
It's
anymore.
too much
It's
now.
just too ridiculous. Yeah. Or you just have to start going so over the top just to get seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm committed to not doing. Like
Yeah.
I I'll put stuff out there if I think it's worthwhile, if I think it can help somebody, then absolutely.
Yeah.
But some of that, you know, well, so and so's doing it this way and they're getting a ton of views. Well, okay, so what?
But they're
Like
not you.
they're not me. It's not authentic if I do it that way. And I'm really trying to push that authenticity works. Like
Yeah.
it works for your message, it works for your business. If you just do good and you keep putting it out there, it will come back. Uh, also understand in this day and age, there's a balance that a line you have to walk. I mean, these are free tools. Why wouldn't you be using them to put your content out there if it's with your goal in mind, with your North Star in mind? But the second that starts drifting off, you and
And
Dave call me up and beat the crap out of me and pummel me again.
but then there's so many people posting so much crap, like, just to get eyeballs is insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I realized a few years ago, based solely on what I'm doing, is I'm just like, "Meh, meh, 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 meh," and then I see something and I'm like, "Oh, I'll watch that. That's cool." And then I scroll past like 40, 50 videos.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy how many videos you can just skim past in like a 2-hour
Oh
period.
man.
It's wild.
I won't even look. I'll post things, but I hardly look. There's a few people that I really want their message to get out as
Yeah.
well. And so I try to maybe look at what they're doing and then reshare it, try to help them grow. I understand that that needs to happen and stuff, but that death scroll, man, it can screw you up. And then you miss your run, you miss your jujitsu class, you miss whatever you got going that day.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is go to bed feeling like I didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah. And that's, man, it's tough. It's a weird world trying to, you know what I mean?
It is.
Trying to make like some kind of impact on people. And that's why, I think is so important to stick with what your message is. So like, like, cause I talked about those two runners that are, posting about literally everything that they're doing. But then, the marathoner that I coach, he just posts about running and he
Hmm.
talks about running and he talks about his nutrition and he talks about his training and he posts videos of him running. And it's really weird because that's what people want to see.
Hmm.
But that's what, people are into. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm a fan of his because I'm invested in his performance, like I said. But, just to watch somebody run, that's really weird.
It's
You know what I
boring
mean?
as can be.
I mean, it's like I could never sit down and watch somebody play pool. But if you're invested in pool, it's the most interesting thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people that are watching UFC fights hate the ground game, but you and I are very proficient at the ground game. So we're like, oh my God, did you see what just happened? You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
wild.
The way he tucked his elbow there and held that hip down,
Yeah.
like,
Or, I don't know if you watched the Kamzat Strickland fight,
no.
but there was like one point where Strickland caught Kamzat almost with a judo throw, and I was like, "Whoo, buddy, that was like almost the most exciting part of that fight for me
Hmm.
because like he started to break Kamzat down, and like in the fourth round, almost threw him to the ground, and I was like, "Oh,
That would have been a moment.
yeah, man." And so it's like those, like I can watch jujitsu tournaments all day. You know what I mean? Like jujitsu in a gi is a lot slower because you
Hmm.
have handles and stuff, but I can just see the intricacies of what these guys are doing.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But like to any layperson, it's just boring.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, to each their own.
right.
We could keep going down this rabbit hole,
Totally.
but I want to get back to, so when did you break out? So you started getting yourself healthy.
Yeah.
You took your fight. We continued training a little bit and then we kind of dissolved out, all of us.
Yeah.
But you did something really hard and then I don't want to say now, like, look at you 15 years later, but really look at you 15 years later. Was it a continuation of doing things that were uncomfortable?
Totally.
Like what got you into massage and then starting your own business and then now this body work and all that?
Um, so I started massage school right out of high school and went to the same school that my dad went to. So I was basically just like graduating high school. My dad made a good amount of money. And I was like, well, that seems like a profession I could do. So I just went into it. But, lately I've been calling the 20s like the lost decade. It's just like your decade where you're just trying to get it together and you're
Totally.
just being a complete loser. And I think that, people that, figure it out and get good jobs in their 20s are amazing. You know what I mean? Because that's when,
Or lucky.
yeah,
I
lucky.
was lucky.
Yeah. And so, um, I did the cage fight and then immediately started doing jujitsu tournaments after that. And then once the fight team kind of fully dissolved, then I just got really into CrossFit. And so then I started doing CrossFit competitions because I came in with that cage fighting mentality. And, the owners of the CrossFit gym were like, man, you are going to go to the CrossFit games. And I was like, hell yeah. So then I started training like I was going to the CrossFit games. And once again, I was early. I had no idea how to train for that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, trying to squeeze in some extra rowing or some extra running or whatever it was to try and get a little bit better at CrossFit. And then, um, you know, this guy, Rich Froning, just started dominating and everybody's like, he's doing 8 workouts a day. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like he was the first CrossFitter to make it like a full-time job. And
Hmm.
then everybody else was trying to catch up to him. You know what I mean? But then he's like one of those people that's just a freaking anomaly.
Hmm.
There's never going to be another that guy, So, and we were doing like he was, the CrossFit like videography team spent like a whole day with him and they're just like, what is this guy? Like he doesn't drink water. He doesn't eat food.
Hmm.
He just trains all day. It's crazy. Like he had like this, and I tried it because I'm an idiot. But he had a gigantic bowl of like peanut butter and jelly that he just mixed together. And in between workouts, he'd just take a couple spoonfuls and then just go do another one. But like we're just like the cage fighting thing, we're just grasping at
Yeah,
straws,
you're
trying
like,
to figure out
what
what to do.
works?
Yeah.
What works for them?
And but and I remember one time, they were really hyping me up. You're going to CrossFit games, you're going to the CrossFit games, and then this woman who went to the CrossFit games the year before came to Flagstaff for a vacation and trained with us. And she placed 35th in the women's CrossFit division. And she did the men's weight and beat me by like half.
Hmm.
And I was like, the hell is that? I'm not going to the games. I could barely hang with this woman who placed 35th.
Which is impressive,
It's as impressive as shit.
but it put you on
It
the
made me
perspective
understand that like if I can't hang with this woman who placed 35th, then there's no way I'm hanging with the dudes. And then that shifted my mindset to what like reality was. Cause then I started paying attention to the women of the CrossFit games and I'm like, oh, they're lifting the same amount as me. You know what I mean? I'm above average as far as strength in this gym, but I'm keeping up with the women of the CrossFit games. I can't even hang with the dudes.
Hmm.
What are we talking about? You know what I mean? But that didn't stop me from training hard. So I still trained really hard. I was still doing like 3 to 4 hours a day and still going to these CrossFit competitions. Some of them were easily the most difficult thing I ever did in my life. Like there was a CrossFit competition held here in 2012 where I finished that thing and was a mess for like a week and a half, like neurologically, mentally, physically, because it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. Like it was insane.
Just
But
destroyed
then
you.
I'm just like, well, I survived that. So then
Yeah.
what the hell else can I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like in that David Goggins book where it's just like, well, what can I do? And then that's also when I finally started to kind of get it together as far as realizing that I needed to figure out like a life's pursuit. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
so realizing, like I'm finally coming out of this, fog of this divorce, which is like right around that 5-year mark, like I was saying, where I was finally getting to the point where I could even like talk to women again. And then I'm like going up and talking to these women, but I had like no career. I had nothing going for me. I wasn't pursuing anything. You know what I mean? They all had careers. They were doing, their stuff. And I was like, well, I'm using student loans to pay for CrossFit. Do you want to go on a date with me? You know what I mean? They're like, no, man. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. So, um, and then I wanted to go into physical therapy because I hated being injured, because everybody on the team was injured at one point. Everybody in CrossFit gets injured at some point, and I hate not being able to train. So I was like, well, I want to help people, and just hit this massive roadblock with math. I'm just terrible at math. I'm more specifically, like if you can't explain to me why I need this, then I don't care, and it's a waste of my time.
I'm in a
You know what
similar
I mean?
boat.
Yeah, like,
Algebraic equations and stuff like that.
well,
I'm like, well, why?
yeah, like I've never used a quadratic equation once in my life, ever. You know what I mean? But the biggest roadblocks for me was physics.
Mm.
Figure out the velocity of this hockey puck sliding without friction. And I'm like, why? Like, how is that going to help me with somebody's rotator cuff injury? Like, what are
Yeah.
we talking about? So I started, once I got into the higher level math, I started really just botching it. No matter how much I studied, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
And then, it was like, I'm just going to go back to massage school and help people that way. Cause I only needed like a couple hundred more hours to be licensed in Arizona. And so I just went back to massage school and then graduated massage school and then got an inheritance from my grandmother passing and then just went on this educational rampage that's back when Instagram was actually really useful and very educational. And so I would just find the leaders of the industries, physical therapy, chiropractic, uh, I didn't really follow massage therapy all that much because they're really that profession is just really far behind as far as, you know, science and, knowledge, everything like that. And so, and then strength training and then, just integrated all that stuff. Like basically I got 10 years of education in 2 years.
Hmm.
Like I was traveling 2 weekends a month, just all over America, just learning from everyone. And it was wild. And some of the stuff I kept and some of the stuff I didn't. And it just, some of the concepts I integrated, but I didn't use their methodology, like that kind of thing, but and just let it rip. And then, like I said, started strength training to give me like a baseline income and then realized that eventually that the two things are one and the same. So like if you're coming into me with chronic pain, then the likelihood that you just need a proper strength training regimen is higher than you just doing massage therapy on you.
Mm.
And so, you know, f- figuring that out and just kind of just spiraling in that direction. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to optimize it in the best way possible. And then the reason why I want to get my name out there the most is so that I could ultimately retire into teaching because I really, really love educating people.
You're really good at it too. That you're, I've seen some of what you put out there and in your approach and the way you break it down. I think there's just such um, a beauty to it when normal people can explain high level things,
Yeah.
because most of the people that I encounter anyway don't need to learn it to this level with like the all of the terms of what's happening. And yeah, maybe you mention it, but tell me what it does. Tell
Right.
me why that's important. That's what I need to know.
Right. What's the,
And
like when your brother was in massage school, he would just come and shadow me. And like one time specifically, I started using the scraping tool and he's like, why are you using that? And so then I explained it to him in just like 2 minutes. He's like, God damn it. We've been learning this for 2 weeks and I still didn't understand it. And you taught me in 2 minutes what this is about. And I'm like, well, because I needed to understand it. And so I broke it down to such a micro level to where I understood everything about it so that I could easily explain to my clients why I'm using this technique
Hmm.
on that thing.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
You brought up the education piece as far as like physical therapy versus the route you took. And that's something I've been struggling with a lot because I'm not traditionally educated. And yet in another life, I would say, or another scenario, I would say I'm educated by the best because, I'm seeking out the best at what they do and learning from them rather than taking the traditional route, which I don't want to knock the traditional route,
Yeah, you do.
but I kind of do.
It's
I
fine.
think there's certain.
You can. So that's the point. That's what you're trying to say is like, what do we need this for? Like, what is this for? Because I got to the point where clients are coming into me. I've been seeing this physical therapist for 12 weeks. This is what we've been doing. And I'm like, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense. And then I'm like, well, I learned from this guy and I read this book. Do these people need those books? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? But they're not learning anything.
Hmm.
That's my whole thing. So what I came to realize was if you're a doctor of literally anything, all that tells me is that you're good at taking tests. That's it. You became a doctor because you passed the tests. Whether or not you're a good doctor is a completely different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've met plenty of physical therapists that are just ding dongs, but then I met some that are just the most exceptional people ever. You know what I mean? And I've learned from those people directly. And so
What do you think separates those two?
because they realized that once they got out of school that they didn't know anything. And so that they pursued excellence. They spent a majority of their time like one of my favorite teachers ever. He created functional range systems. His name's Dr. Andreo Spina. Like he's a very polarizing person, like even at the beginning of his class, he's like, I'm going to piss some people off here, but this is what I believe. And this is what I know what works. And this is how I've implemented it over the last 15 years. And this is what I'm teaching you today. I guarantee you, I'm going to offend at least half of you.
Hmm.
And then he just lets it rip. And you're just like, dude, this guy's on it, man. Because he just put forth such an exceptional effort to be exceptional. And the benefit that I have is that he pours through thousands and thousands of research papers, implements what works, throws away what doesn't, compacts it into a weekend course, and I get to take it.
Hmm.
And then I get to put it into my practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, another example is like when I met you guys, I was going to school to get an associate's of business. And here I am 10 years later, and I'm like, none of those people started a business ever. So what am I learning from them from? I just started a business. And here I am 10 years later. So am I a black belt in business? So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the traditional education system is not an education system as much as it is a business. So when you start looking at it that way, where they're trying to keep, like, what's the purpose of a business is to keep clients as long as possible. That's it. So in order for you to get a bachelor's, you have to get an associate's. So the associate's takes 2 years. So we have you for 2 years. But your education doesn't mean anything unless you have a bachelor's. So then we keep you for another 2 more years. So
And
now we
some
have
that doesn't matter until you get a master's or a doctorate.
none of it matters until you get a doctorate.
And I think
Because like, pardon my interruption, but I think that like even now, like a master's degree doesn't mean much until you get a doctorate in something.
I think depending on the field,
Yeah.
like I want to just leave a little bit of room because some of my friends are professors and they're really good at what they do, and they're in fields that it required them in order to get really good at what they do.
Right.
It was the path that they needed to take. Where I struggle with education personally is that I talk to these students all the time. I've been working with them on different projects, AI projects, and a number of different things, and I feel bad because they've spent $100,000 to get this ticket that used to probably get them that job walking in the door. And now that's not the case. Like, you've got to separate yourself from the 30,000 people who just got laid off from AWS if you're in computer science. And those people have experience. They have workforce education. They have institutional knowledge that you don't have getting out of college. And yet it's still just pounded in their head that this is the path you have to take. And I just feel like there's a shift.
Totally.
Industry is hiring a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Um, there's, uh, I can't remember who says it. Somebody says educated idiots, there's
Yeah.
like, but then there's people who take that and say, okay, this is my baseline.
Yeah.
Kind of like going back to the jujitsu thing, the guy who's been a black belt for 30 years. Okay, that's my baseline. I know how to learn now. And I can't beat that drum loud enough. Is like, yeah, celebrate that win. You got that degree. Now, now that's your springboard to now figure this out, because if not, you're in a world of hurt for
Right.
your career.
And, to piggyback off of that, like the reason why I went on that educational rampage that I went on was because I got out of massage school and realized I didn't know anything.
Hmm.
I had no idea what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
right away. And when, David started shadowing me, he was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And then to speaking on those professors that you just talked about, these exceptional professors that are probably at the highest level of that education, the amount of hot garbage that those students need to go through to get to those exceptional professors is ridiculous.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Like, what are we doing? It's crazy. So, like, if I'm going for a physical therapy degree, I have to get an associate's in something. I have to get like a bachelor's in exercise science and then maybe get into physical therapy school. For what? Like, what is this? What is this 4 years for? Why don't you just put me on that track? You know what I mean? It's like if I don't make it, I don't make it. It's kind of like, like the it's like Hell Week in the Navy SEALs, like whatever the attrition rate in Hell
Mhm.
Week is just absurd. And I'm sure if you just put people right into physical therapy school, the attrition rate would be terrible.
Yeah.
But then you'd get the people that want it, not the people that are good at taking tests. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you can find success both ways.
Totally.
Just to be fair, like
Right.
I really think, but the people who find the greatest success after the traditional education are the ones who continually learn.
Totally.
And the drum I'm beating is become a lifelong learner. Keep pushing yourself to doing different things, because any one accomplishment, it's not just education, but any one accomplishment that you gain in your life, if you say, okay, I'm done and I've learned everything that there is to know, then good luck in 10 years. You might be able to fake it for a little while, but you're not going to be relevant.
I hate to bring it up, but that's like a three-stripe white belt, man.
Yeah,
They know everything,
right.
and that's a lot of stuff. You know what I
They
mean?
know just enough to be dangerous
Yeah,
to
but like,
themselves.
yeah, but like that's what I mean. Is so like you have to keep evolving. Like if your narrative is the same narrative that you've had for the last 5, 10 years, you're behind.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because then there's people like that Dr. Andrea Spina that I was talking about. He's still learning, and he's going to put out another course, and I'm going to go take it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
And how old is that guy?
He's I think he's early 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, graduated chiropractic school like 30 years ago.
And he's just
He's
still learning,
crushing
putting
it,
it
dude.
good.
Yeah. Like stuff that just, like the only way that it like made sense to me is because of like my manual therapy practice, because I'm so in tune with like the nervous system because the brain's in charge of everything. Right. So the manual therapy practice that I do is called applied kinesiology, where I do neurological muscle testing to determine where the dysfunction is in the body that's causing your brain. Right. So your brain is locked in the deep, dark cave of your skull, has no idea what's going on with your body other than signals that you have coming up from you moving it.
Okay.
Right. So if you sprain your ankle, then you create a compensation pattern because your brain will move around that pain now. And so if that ankle sprain isn't addressed, then it's not just the ankle. Now you have a hip dysfunction. And so now your other hip is working harder to walk because you're just like, well, I can't use this hip because this ankle's broken.
Mhm.
And your brain doesn't know what's going on with that ankle. It's just like, oh, it's gone now. Because then, the only access that we have to our brain is through our ears and our eyes, and it takes up like a majority of what's going on in your brain. Right. So then once you create this new movement pattern around that injury, then you immediately go back to processing billions of bits of information per second with sounds and sights and all that kind of stuff. Right. So then that whole leg starts to disappear in the map of your brain that your brain has of your body. And so you have to reintroduce that hip and that leg to the brain. And that's basically what physical therapy is. Right. And so when I do this muscle testing, like I remember I had this memory pop up the other day. I have no idea why. Don't ask me. But like you were talking about how you injured your shoulder because you were driving and you reached back for your backpack. And when you grabbed it, you injured your shoulder.
Yeah.
Right. So now when you're fighting, your brain's not going to rely as much on that hand. So then you're figuring out how to use the other hand.
Yeah.
And, and then that shoulder starts to dim in your brain map. And that's where people get frozen shoulder from.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I would muscle test to figure out exactly why you hurt your shoulder when you were reaching back and what happened there. And so typically when we move, we only move in like one type of movement pattern. So like you bend down and pick up a sock in front of you, but then people's backs go out when you reach over to the side and pick up a sock because your brain's not used to going in that direction. So it panics and freaks out.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh my God. And then locks all your muscles up and then your back goes out. And so that's how your brain like understands your body. So then you strength train the same way, right? So if you're flexing a muscle, that signal from the muscle has to go to the spinal cord up to the brain. The brain figures out what's to do with it, send it back down the spinal cord and then to that muscle. So if you're doing like lunges or squats, it takes like 5, 6 reps before your brain's like, I got it. We're doing squats. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But the signals from your joint go straight to the brain. And so if you activate the joint capsule first, then your brain's like, got it. We're using the hip. And then you start doing lunges and the brain's like, oh, we're doing lunges. Right on. And it's
Interesting.
with it right away. You know what I mean? And so that's what I was teaching David. Like when you're doing a massage and like you're releasing like one of the big problem muscles like up in the upper body is called the pec minor. So it comes off of your acromion process here and fans out into your chest. And so if that thing gets tight, then it rolls this tendon from the top of your biceps into your chest, and then you can't lift your arm above your head.
Hmm.
And so when I release that pec, it's such a compressive muscle that I grab and I lift, but sometimes it's just so used to being locked up like that that it takes a minute. But if you add joint movement in there, then the brain's like, oh, here we go. And it just releases it right away.
Huh.
And David's like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, man. But then that's the problem is, and this is a problem that I had like early on in my career, is that once I learn all this stuff, then I become incredibly efficient. And so now an hour massage takes like 20 minutes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now people are like, and so for a while I was like, well, I've got to figure out how to waste time. But then what I realized was that people are paying me for the solution, not my time. Because when people come in with like low back pain, they don't give a shit
Just fix
about
me.
how much time it takes. They just like, if they can walk out of there,
2 minutes or 20 hours. I don't care.
right,
Fix my back.
it's money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's like another thing that people struggle with in their business is figuring out what they're worth, which is like really hard
Yeah.
because then you got to figure out what you're worth within the economy that you're in. So like finding the balance on what you can charge and what people can afford and what your worth is
Hmm.
tough. You know what I mean? And like I saw this video where this guy was a graphic designer and he charges like $25,000 because he's one of the best in the world. And the guy's like, why would I pay you that if it only takes you like half a day? And he's like, well, how much would you like it to take? Like, how long would you like me to take on this project? Because I can take that long. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you want me to do 20 hours, 2 weeks? What's your $25,000 worth to you? Do you want this product right away so you can start implementing it right away?
Hmm.
Or do you want it 2 weeks from now? Like, because the time doesn't mean anything. The effort and the product means something. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not necessarily paying them for the time in that moment. You're
Right.
paying for all that knowledge that they gained over those years.
Right. But then that's where we're stuck in this economy is the hourly wage.
Hmm.
This is how much I'm charging for this person's time. You know what I mean? And so that's where I started to, really figure out that like people are coming to me so that they can perform better, whether it's in a marathon or whether it's walking down the stairs or picking up their kid or whatever it is.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's like really had to shift my mentality towards that.
That's such interesting timing for me personally because I've been I've been asked a couple of times now, like, what do I cost for a speech? To come in and give a speech, or more specifically, in this case, a communication workshop, how to optimize the communication within your team so that everybody's functioning together. And then your, your business is now elevated because of that communication with it internally. And initially I was like, oh, okay, it looks like, other people are charging this. I'm, not as well known. I'll charge this, or I'm better than them. I'll charge that. And then I started thinking, it was actually a book I read, and I started thinking about what does it cost that organization to not have me do this? That's the more important question. Because if they want to continue their dysfunctional teamwork and communication, what's it cost to them? And not saying I want to go in and just, make a ton of money and, hurt the business that way, but trying to find that balance on, okay, what does it cost so and so to have a back injury for the next 6 months and not be able to work?
Yeah.
That's a more important question to ask. Like, and so I've been asking them back, like, well, how important is this to you? And not in a like boastful, egotistical way, but more like, you need communication. You need to optimize communication if you want to drive this business forward. What will it cost you to not hire me or someone like me?
Yeah.
That's the more important question to
Right.
ask.
And so then you kind of look at your competition too. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because like you have like Echelon Front, Jocko Willink's company.
Yeah.
Like they obviously couldn't hire Echelon Front.
Right.
So then where do you fit in all that? You know what I mean? And so that's like the struggle, right? Like
Hmm.
how do you, make a name for yourself? Because that's what I'm finally getting to after 10 years of being in business and trying as hard as I could for 10 years is now making a name for myself. So now everybody in the running community has heard of me.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So now how do I take the next step? Because, I have a lot of people being like, well, I heard of you. I'm like, cool. So what's the next thing you need in order for you to invest in me? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because I think this is where I got stuck a lot too, is like once you work with this one person, you're like, oh, I made it. And that's where you get screwed, is because you've never made it. You know what I mean? There's always a next step,
Yeah.
and there's always
Celebrate that win
totally
briefly
right.
and
And
then
then,
move on to the next.
but the problem is like not losing sight of that one person that got you to where you're at. You know what I mean? Like I'm still like, if I get this person, if I get that person, if I get that person, I'll just be moderately more successful. But I need to focus on the person that got me here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't lose sight of everything that I'm doing for that person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, you can't discount what your experience is. You know what I mean? Because you've only been a speaker for a year,
Bless.
less. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've been a communicator for a long damn time. You know what I mean? There's been like multiple times in my life where you just swooped in and just saved my ass, dude. Like I remember
Don't
like
remember.
after my cage fight, I was like so emotional, and my mom was just stomping towards me, and I was like, I can't handle that right now. And you just scooped her right up. Let's go talk over here. And you calmed her down, and I was like, oh my God. Thank God for Michael, man. Like it was just insane. But like
That was all body language.
dude, she was, I don't know, like both my mom and your brother were about to get in the cage and kick the shit out of that dude
Oh yeah.
that just beat me up. Like, so I made this thing, I'll send it to you later, because I was looking at that picture that we have post cage fight where I'm just standing there and I'm all beat up, and you're like holding this bandage on my head because I was like bleeding to death out of my forehead. And just one day I was like, oh, that's David in the background. And I kept zooming in, and he's so pissed. He's just standing there like, and so I sent that to him one day, and he was like, I was about to jump that guy. I was just, and I was like, yeah, that's how I knew. You know what I mean? These are my people, like, man. But it's, but like just being a firefighter for so long and working your way up to being a battalion chief. And, like if there's ever a profession with more egos, you know what I mean? Like firefighting's up there.
It's up there.
Yeah. And so what breaks down communication more than anything?
Ego, baby.
Ego, baby. You know what I'm saying? Well, I know more than you. You might not, you might know more than me, but I know different than you. And so what you're doing isn't working, so let's try my thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's all it is.
Yeah. And so like there's an exceptional amount of people out there that are getting their ego strangled out of them every single day at jujitsu class. You know what I mean?
Very true.
And so they
And
have to
yet they're
get it.
still struggling with whatever they're doing.
They're having to get it strangled out of them in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, some of those people don't get an ego check until they get fired, you know?
Or sometimes that doesn't work.
No, but it's like,
then it's the agency's fault, or whatever it is.
yeah,
There's
totally.
always. It's
Well,
hard to break through to that.
yeah, and that just being accountable, man. It's just everything in your life is your fault.
It's hard to admit,
It is, man.
but it's true.
Yeah, like so one of the other times that you kind of swooped in, and like just your presence there just kind of showed me that everything was going to be okay, was after my friend committed suicide. And so I was the one that, kicked in this door, and I was the one that found him on his couch, and I was just like losing my shit. And then you pulled up in your fire truck, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay." Like, right away. You know what I
That
mean?
was a tough call, man.
Dude, it was everybody that I needed to be there was there. Like, one of the paramedics that showed up was my training partner at CrossFit. Like, it was wild how that unfolded.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But, like, um, it man, I lost the plot on that one, but there's, like what were we talking about? So, the ego thing.
Yeah, ego, communication.
Yeah, it, just your ability and your presence to change a situation just based off of you walking into the room and exuding this calmness and comfort is like I don't even really understand how to explain it to you, but like these people that like and these businesses that are struggling, like you hired this person because of who they are, but now their ego is causing a problem.
Mhm.
So like, how do you get that ego death to where you can start working as a team and taking accountability for yourself? And this I'm glad I figured it out. So, you know, because of that event where my friend committed suicide, um, I'm not the person to talk to about that. You know what I mean? So, like, I had a friend, he was like, I've been friends with him since we were 15. He calls me up one day and he's like, man, I'm really suicidal. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, you know, I'm getting fired from my job and my wife's leaving me and, you know, I'm losing a lot of friends. And I'm like, that sounds like your fault, man. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, what'd you do to your wife? Well, I slept with another person. I'm like, yeah, wives don't like that. So don't do that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're getting fired from your job, you're obviously not doing a good job, you know? So, like, if you're looking for a shoulder to cry on and you're contemplating suicide, I'm not the guy. I'm the guy that's going to tell you to go fuck yourself
Hmm.
because, like, you don't understand, like, the devastation that happens to the people that you love and that love you
Mhm.
and that care about you. You have no idea what that's going to do to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So go fuck yourself. Like, your life is your fault. So figure it the fuck out, dude. Like, you gotta go, man. Like, if there's shit that's constantly going wrong in your life and you're not turning that finger around at yourself,
It's not gonna change.
no.
It's not gonna get better.
And, you know, I've lived in Flagstaff my whole life and I've had plenty of people being like, Flagstaff's my problem. I'm like, sure is. I'm going to move somewhere else and my problems will go away. I'm like, I bet. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, just that it took me, like, I had to dive into that grief for 2 solid years to get over the death of my friend.
Mhm.
And his son had muscular dystrophy. And I just remember being at his funeral and looking at his son crying hysterically, being like, you son of a bitch. Like, are you serious right now? Like, you left this kid just because you were sad. You know what I mean? And you were traumatized by combat. You know, like this kid should have been your shining light, your purpose for being. And you selfishly took yourself out. You know what I mean? And I get it. So that's like the weird part where I get it. Like you saw some horrific shit and nobody's prepared for that kind of thing. And I get it. But also like you had a purpose.
Yeah, not where do you lose the purpose?
Right.
How do you get it back? Or in that phone call, not to you, to
Yeah.
somebody else, right? That could say, okay, here's the next steps,
Right.
right? Like we need to take ownership for the things we've done,
Right. And so how
and
do
then
you
let's start turning it around.
that's exactly what I was getting to. Like you get to this point where, you know, like I'm gonna help you take accountability for all the mistakes that you made and help you understand that that was your fault and the reason why your life is falling apart is because of you, but your life can also be put back together because of you.
Hmm. That's
So
exactly the message people need to
right,
hear.
because, like, you know what I mean? Like, these I see people all the time that are just like, this is another message you have too, where people are just suffering in a job that they hate because it's good money. And I'm like, it's not everything.
No.
No, no,
And there's a clear path out, especially
totally.
if it's good money.
Right.
Put a little aside, set a date, and turn in your resignation letter while you're starting something new. Like,
Nothing,
set the plan in action.
nothing kicks your ass into gear like not having any other options.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just gotta, like, this person I'm thinking of right now works so hard. And I mean, imagine if you were working 12 to 13 hours a day on something you cared about instead of 12 to 13 hours a day of something that's draining your life force.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Imagine the amount of damage you could do in an industry
Oh, you
if
put
you
that
just
same effort towards something different
literally anything.
or start your own thing.
It, dude, it's crazy how much effort people will put in at something that that is ruining their life, basically.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
same amount of effort put towards something else, well, we're not going to be able to live in this house anymore. Who cares? We'll get an apartment.
Yeah. For a little bit.
Yeah,
And then we're going to live in a much nicer house,
I'll
though.
go live in a van in the woods. Like, whatever it takes to make your life better, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
People undervalue simplifying their lives for a short amount of time.
Hmm. Yeah. Suffer now. Live in a little trailer for a year.
And we see it all the time, dude. Like, people driving a Mercedes Benz while living in a trailer, and you're like, hmm, it's backwards, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, like, what is that proving to the world? You driving a Mercedes.
Yeah. And what
And you're,
value do you get out of it?
yeah, and you're
Like
prioritizing.
personal.
What are you prioritizing here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, your living situation sucks, but you got a cool car, but the car is not the most important thing. Your living situation's the most important thing. So let's, like, figure that out. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird what people place value on, like
Hmm.
this. Like, remember my ex-girlfriend moved to Hollywood and I went out there to like visit her. And I was just looking around at all these dudes that were wearing like $500 polo shirts and driving BMWs. And I'm just like, I bet you all those dudes live in a studio apartment together. But they got the image of Hollywood, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They got that $500 silk shirt. That's cool. But like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, like there's so much opportunity.
I think that's the message people need to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been down in the dumps. We've all had depression or anxiety or PTSD or, there's a number of things, right? And I'm not trying to discount mental health. Like, get the help you need, whatever that is. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, like you said, take ownership for your actions. Recognize, yeah, I screwed up a ton in my 20s,
Totally.
a little bit less in my 30s, a little bit less in my 40s.
Oh, yeah, but you're gonna screw it up.
You're going to screw it up. But one
Yeah,
thing you said earlier was I failed so many times.
right.
And some of the most successful people in business or in relationships or in life, they failed. They seek out failure because they know that that's the path to success.
Dude, I talk about this all the time. Like, men have more of a proclivity to failure than women do. And like, you're married to an exceptional woman. So like, you'll understand this more than most, right? But this is from 10 years of coaching CrossFit. Like, women are so terrified to fail. And so what I would do as a coach was trick them into failing. So whenever you're working out, you have like a specific way that you load a barbell, right? That you load a barbell.
Hmm.
So on 1 rep max days, I would load their barbell. So then they're all nervous. So they have no idea how much weight's on there. So then I keep loading it up, keep loading it up. They keep lifting, they keep lifting. And then all of a sudden they've lifted 50, 60, 70 pounds more than they've ever lifted.
Hmm.
And then the last time, then when they tried 75 pounds more, that bar didn't move. Cause we've all been there
Hmm.
where you're just like,
That's all I
and
got.
that bar doesn't have anything. You're like, damn it. You know what I mean? But then you look around, nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit.
It's so true.
So then you realize, so then you start to be like, oh, so now I know what I'm capable of. And once these women figure out that they're capable of stuff, you better step aside, man.
Because they're going.
They're letting it rip. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
just started doing crazy shit. You're just like, right on. God dang, man. You know what I mean? Like, let them go. You know, like another mutual friend that we have that's perfect proof of that is Katie Brown.
She's incredible.
That woman, good night. She is insane.
Yeah.
Like, I remember training with her just being like, this, I can barely hang with this person. And she's like half my size.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
She's
Like
incredible.
in a firefighter position with somebody her size, you have to be pretty exceptional. She lives up to it, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think she just has that mindset.
Well,
She knows that her size would traditionally limit her in that position
Mhm.
because you might have to carry out somebody that's 250 pounds downstairs. Well, how are you going to do that? She knows.
Yeah.
I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get better. She's smart. She figures out better techniques to get down the stairs. Like there's so many other things that you can bring to the table,
Totally.
but she never quits getting
But
better.
that's the thing is like she didn't limit herself.
Exactly.
And so that, you know, but I'm not just singling out women here. I've seen plenty of men
Oh,
the same way.
well, and there's plenty of men I was going to follow up with that and I had been there where, okay, I've been in great shape. I'm strong. I'm big. And then I got my butt kicked on a fire.
Yeah.
God, I mean, I couldn't lift my arms after this fire.
Yeah.
I was so wiped out, and it was strenuous, but it shouldn't have been that to that level.
Yeah.
And I was on the opposite end where I quit trying to get better because I was just like, oh, I'm good enough.
Mhm.
Well, good. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'd rather have her, 120 pounds soaking wet, probably, who works her butt off every day because I know she's got no quit in her. Whereas I found my quit
Yeah.
weighing 260 at the time. you
Yeah.
know?
And that's a hard pill to swallow, man.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like you think about like one of my main impetus for training is 9/11 because every year on 9/11 I watch this documentary on National Geographic called 9/11 Minute by Minute, where they compiled all the footage that they could possibly get. And it's like a 2-hour emergency.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, and you look at this event and you see people that are physically incapable rather, of running for their lives. You know what I mean? You saw plenty of firefighters in that documentary that were probably in a situation that you just described, especially in that event.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just like, we got to get it done, man.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one scene that gets me every time. So it was after the first tower fell. There was a guy in a hotel lobby filming, and the pyroclastic cloud was just flowing through the city. And 5 firefighters run in the front door, and they're like, "Give me phones." And everybody just starts handing them cell phones. They call their loved ones. They're like, "Hey, I'm still alive. I love you. Going into Tower 2." Hung up the phone, ran into that cloud. And I'm like, God, those are some motherfuckers right there. You know what I mean? And so just trying to be even a fraction of that for like a day is like what I train for, to just be, you know, capable of running for my life if I need to, capable of being able to carry somebody and then run for my life if I need to, being an asset to people who need my help. Like that was the event that like sits in my mind as like what people should be capable of. You know what I mean? And like Katie Brown probably could have held up that building if she wanted to.
Oh man. Yeah.
She's a savage, dude.
Yeah. We need more people like her.
I agree. I try every day.
I fail every day.
I know. Well, she's hard to live up to, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start working towards wrap up. I want to dig into the podcast because it started as it was mostly, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you sharing some of your knowledge from your travels and then like client work and then interviewing people, that kind of thing, right?
Well, so what I did was I started the podcast because I had such a thirst for knowledge at the time, and all of these exceptional people that I looked up to were available and accessible. And so I just started reaching out to them and be like, hey, would you be on my podcast? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Because like I had questions, and I guarantee that there's people in my situation that had questions. So then I just started interviewing just these exceptional people in, physical therapy, chiropractic, strength and conditioning. You were talking about communication. One of the interviews that comes to mind is this strength coach named Nick Winkelman, who released this book called The Language of Coaching, which is like how to communicate with people and, how to break stuff down differently. You know what I mean? Which is what I learned in CrossFit. Like everybody has the easiest way for us to understand stuff is, through metaphors. And so everybody understands different metaphors. You know what I mean? So I can explain the same thing to 15 different people, 15 different ways. And then, some will get it, some won't. Some will be like, oh, finally got it. You know what I mean? I always ran into people saying, well, nobody's ever said that to me before. And I'm like, they didn't say it this way. They've said it to you. I promise. You know what I mean?
It's not on your level.
Yeah. So
that is.
It started out as an educational podcast, not only for me, but for everybody else. And then the problem I ran into was after a while, I made friends with all these people. And then I was just, missing them and wanted to have a conversation. You know what I mean? So then after a while, I'm like, oh, nobody's learning anything. So I just stopped doing it. And so I started it back up with David because, for basically the same reasons, I was just going to have him be the interviewer. But now all these people, especially like post-pandemic, aren't as readily available anymore because they're, pandemic, we went to nothing. And now we're just like accelerating, trying to catch up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's still like feeling like the reverberations of that. And then there was one interview we did where, me and David got there like 30, 40 minutes early and we're just shooting the shit. And that was the best part of the whole thing. And then I was like, well, we need to do a podcast introducing David. And then after that, I was just like, we're doing more of these. And so my podcast just took like a violent left-hand turn. And now it's just me and him just talking, dude. And it's so much fun, man. It's like, it's wild. Like, it's to the point where like he'll walk in the gym and I'd be like, just don't even talk to me right now. You're wasting
valuable.
Yeah, you're valuable stuff. And I don't know. We're vibing right now. It's so much fun just getting in there and just.
It's so much fun to listen to you guys.
It's crazy. It's like I have such an exceptional time talking to that dude, and that's why I keep pumping them out, because I'm like, if I'm having a good time, other people will probably have a good time too.
I'm glad you do.
Because I remember one of his ex-girlfriends while he was like training for his fight, you know, she was like, I want to go drink. And he's like, I can't drink right now. I'm training. And she was like, whatever, we're going to go to the bars. We're just going to go. So he called me and was like, hey, will you just come with me? And I'm like, sure. And so we went to Beaver Street and, you know, his girlfriend and them were all getting hammered. And me and David are just in the front lobby, just talking shit and having the greatest time ever, ever. So much so that his girlfriend came out and got pissed that we were having more fun than her. And I was just like, I don't know what your problem is, but we're having a good time. And you know what I mean? So it's just that kind of vibe. We just let it rip. I keep trying to get other people on it, but you know, like I said, everybody's so busy, but
Yeah,
it's a good time, man.
it is. It's fun to listen to you guys. There's a couple of episodes where I told myself, even if I didn't know these guys, I would find this entertaining
Yeah.
at the least, right? Like, it's just a good way to check out and have fun, like
Yeah.
almost like you're in the room. It's a good vibe you guys have going.
It's pretty fun, man. And like I said, if there's any women that are curious about what their men are talking about, this is the podcast for you because it's literally the most ridiculous shit.
It is. You guys go down so many rabbit holes and conspiracy theories. I got to tell you, I'm not done with the latest episode, but we're about to get on a cruise.
Yeah.
And you guys terrified me.
I mean, sorry. It's the only way that makes sense to me, dude. So just, you know, maybe you should bring some bleach wipes and wipe it all down because that's the only way that makes sense to me, man. And you know, it's what a, it's such a, like we were talking about in this latest episode, like this crazy world is moving at a mile a minute. And we're just like, what are we doing now? What this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like me and David try to do at least one a week. And there's just time where I'm like, that's not enough. There's so much shit that happened in this week. I just don't even know what to talk about.
Oh, it's like daily. If you want to talk about
crazy,
personal, professional, just community wide, there's plenty to talk about.
Right.
If you're talking national level or worldwide, good luck.
Yeah, man.
You can talk all day.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And it seems like every time he goes down to Phoenix with Josie, the world falls apart. Another assassination attempt or World War III starts, and you're just like, stop going down to Phoenix. I think this is your fault.
Yeah, you need to just stay up here.
Totally. What the hell? It's just wild, man. But yeah, it's a good time. And I don't really know where it's going, but I think it's this direction.
Yeah, I mean, you just keep putting it out there.
Yeah, dude.
And then see what happens. I know it's a misdirection from the original thought, but it's
just the way it,
just as a,
yeah,
like you said earlier, like with influencers and stuff, people follow some people to just figure out a burrito, the best burrito in town. Well, that's not interesting to me. And neither, no offense, but neither is you interviewing the best chiropractor in the world. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of that.
Right.
You two talking world stage conspiracy stuff, like, yes, I can get into that.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's a good time, man. It's wild.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be able to laugh about the crazy shit because, like, there's
ultimately, what can we do about it?
nothing.
Right?
I mean, you have to make jokes about it.
Yeah.
If you don't, then your life is so miserable. I just, you know, it's just crazy.
Have a little fun. Focus on what's good.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's all good, dude. Yeah, I love it. The Robust Human Podcast for people that are interested.
Yeah, listen to it. Reach out to me if you want some episode recommendations, because there's a couple that are just pure gold.
Yeah.
And then, so what's next in your practice? You still like train and learning? Are you gonna trademark some system? What are you doing?
So what I'm doing now, is I want to get my hands on more elite athletes that don't really understand how my massage practice works. So what I'm doing is, I'm doing a lecture at my gym on May 24th at noon. just talking about how my manual therapy practice works, and I'll be using the crowd to like demonstrate. So anybody that has any kind of, you know, chronic thing that popped up, shoulder stuff, low back stuff, come in and I'll use you as a demo, and then hopefully we can fix you on the spot.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm working on there. Um, it's sometime at the end of June. I'm going to get one of my athletes, Rory Linkletter, and we're going to go over to Run Flagstaff and have strength training Q&A with him and me there, so we can explain his side and my side of it.
Nice.
And so that'll be good. So right now, what I'm trying to do is just, man, it's just such a lifelong pursuit of just trying to get your business more steady. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, this is like one of those things. I mentioned it on my podcast before, but people talk all this shit about millionaires and billionaires. But like, if you became a millionaire, good job, man. That is an exceptional amount of work. I don't think people understand.
I'm with you.
There's no way. You know what I mean? Like, like Grant Cardone, like these people are huge personalities and it feeds into their business, but like the amount of effort and the amount of time and the amount of failure and the amount of moments that they wanted to quit and didn't
Mhm.
led them to where they are now. And I don't think that's talked enough about either. Because I know a lot of business owners in town, and you know, I've every single one of them was like, man, a steady paycheck would be dope right now, because
Yeah.
like it just, but it's all worth it. And so that's my other goal right now is just trying to stay more steady, um, and just keep learning. And that's right now my learning is just talking to people and getting people, just understanding people better, because everybody has different experiences. So just working my way through that. Um, yeah. And then just trying to educate myself, like I think, uh, I think psychology is the most overlooked aspect of any business that you have. Cause like right away when I got into massage therapy, I was like, most of these people are experiencing emotional pain, not physical pain. And so, like Josie is one of my loudest advocates. And if every single one of those people that told to come see me came and saw me, I wouldn't know what the hell to do.
Mhm.
But like most of the time, people talking about their pain is how they get affection. And so they don't want to get the problem fixed. They just want somebody to do the op or
To
babies. You
listen.
know what I mean? They don't
Yeah.
want any of the solutions. And so then going into like the psychology of that, you know what I mean? And getting people there too. And so that's, yeah, just basically working on like kind of educating the populace on what I do because it's so unique and so different. And I put so much effort into creating this unique and different thing that I just need to start spreading the word. So that's my goal right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly where I see you too.
Yeah.
Because I've heard others who have said, I've dealt with this hip pain for 6 years and I've gone to everybody and then I go to Jesse twice and I'm fixed, like there's something to that.
Yeah.
And if there's something to that, people need to hear about that.
Right.
And everybody's in some type of chronic pain,
Yeah.
so like you could stay busy the rest of your life if people know.
Yeah. And like, one last thing, and we can probably finish here, but, anybody that you're interacting with, rather, like the most important thing is to just give a shit. And so, that's one thing I taught David that he's really taken to heart is, like, I think the average is like 17 seconds when you're talking to a doctor and they interrupt you.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So like David started doing 10, 15, 20-minute intakes. And that's how I do it too.
yeah.
Because like if and I'm so kind of dialed in where I can fix something in 10, 15 minutes, but if just having somebody listen to you and care about what you're saying for 15, 20 minutes,
Mhm.
people aren't used to that.
Right.
And so you just, yeah, well, let's see what we can do. Fix you up. You know what I mean? And then I get them on the table and then they're like, oh my God, I feel great. You know what I mean? I've even had people just come in and sit down on the table and just vent for an hour. And they're
Mhm.
like, I haven't felt this good in years. Like, right on. Feel kind of bad targeting you, but here we are. You know what I mean? It's yeah, it's but that goes with like every profession.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But doctors' conferences, look me up. I'll teach you how to communicate. I'll help you listen.
Help you listen. That's the biggest part.
Get you in with Jesse. And yeah, I think I just got to tell you, I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Like, knowing the Jesse that walked into the gym that day, and then to see where you are now. And I know it's a grind, but I see nothing but good for you, man. Like, you're killing it. You're kicking ass in life, and I'm so proud of you for that.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
man. That really means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, brother.
How can people find you?
So robusthumanproject.com has all my contact information on there. So that's the best place to go.
Okay.
Right.
And Instagram?
Instagram is the.robust.human. And then the podcast is the.robust.human.podcast. We just put all the most appropriate clips on Instagram. The rest of the podcast you'll just have to listen to.
Yeah, and come in with thick skin.
Yeah. There's times where we skirt the edge, man.
Yeah, just be willing to hear a different perspective.
Yeah. I've always been able to bring it home so far, but there's been a couple times where I was like, I am pushing it.
Oh yeah, you're getting deep. I'm cringing for you.
Yeah. But I was able to bring it home, which is good.
Yeah.
There was one episode where I was like sweating profusely by the end of that, being like, oh my God, I did it. I dug myself a deep hole and somehow got out of
Came out of it.
Oh man.
It's fun to listen to.
Just stick with it sometimes.
For all my tens of listeners, hopefully they'll listen to yours.
Totally appreciate it, brother.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, man.